Welcome to Labor's View. The show is brought to you by the very hardworking and dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare. They are the members of our union, the Communications Workers of America, Local 1081, and they are the non-supervisory workers, so they of the Division of Welfare. So they are family service workers, social workers, if you will, investigators, clerks, and various and sundry other titles. I'm David Weiner, host of the show and president of Local 1081. Today we have with us Janet Gerhard.
Yep.
And are you related to the guy on the radio, 101.5?
I am. He's a cousin of mine, a first cousin.
That's too bad.
Exactly.
But anyway, no, he's a little bit right wing for me, but it's nice. He's nice. He's a smart guy.
Smart guy.
Bad station though, for public employees. That's a good way to start out. Insult our cousin.
Yeah, thank you. This will move forward.
There you go. Janet, who are you and what do you do?
I am Director of Public Relations and Outreach at Healthcare Assistance with Member Support. We are a union EAP, which is Employee Assistance Professionals.
Labor union.
Labor unions, exactly. And we only deal with unions, David. We deal with unions such as CWA, AFSCME, NJEA. A lot of public employees call on to us and ask for assistance.
They call on to you.
Exactly, they call on and call in to us. Ask for assistance with behavioral health issues and drug and alcohol dependencies, not just for members, but for their families.
Okay. And so let's go a little more deeply into that. I'm a member of I have a member of Local 10, and this has happened, obviously.
This has happened,
we know it.
Correct.
Very recently, actually. And I have a member who's got drug dependence issues, and generally, whether it be whatever the issue, it could be marital issue, it could be family, whatever, health, but they generally come to the fore, I found, based upon it's precipitated by what happened negatively to them at work. They don't generally come out on their own and say, oh, please, I need to go into rehab.
Correct.
Something happens to them and they need the union, and then we use you guys to assist us in protecting their job and protecting them in other ways as well.
Correct. And that's our number one goal, to protect a job. And that's why we work closely with labor unions. We have members, your members, members of other labor unions who call and say, I have a discipline on the job. I am in pending discipline. I'm working with my union. However, I need further assistance. It is rare that people call us without discipline or without going through the union. But because dependencies and behavioral health are such shame-based feelings, people are a little even apprehensive to call their union representative, particularly when it's a family member. But David, often we get calls from a union, say we have someone who is in discipline, they're in my office right now, they have a drug or an alcohol related charge, and that could be a charge from the employer. It also could be a legal issue, a charge from a legal issue. And we step in with state and federal laws and work with the unions to protect jobs utilizing them.
Before you say how, what are those laws?
Chapter 69, New Jersey State Law of 2011. Chapter 69, which was written by a colleague of mine, Wayne Dubofsky, has shepherded through with Linda Greenstein, wonderful friend of labor.
Yes.
And that law, when a union or public employee calls their EAP, the minute they call—
Employee Assistance Program.
Yes, Employee Assistance Program. The minute they call, the management cannot move forward with discipline. And we work to get a level of care. And that level of care for a dependency could be inpatient, it could be intense outpatient, it could be referrals for, as you said, relationship issues. So it could be a marital problem, it could be we're seeing a lot, unfortunately, of anger management issues, folks who are experiencing that. And we're getting folks a lot of referrals for stress and anxiety. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about stress and anxiety later in your show.
Not a problem. And I'll make a note of that, stress, anxiety, which no one else but I can read. But one thing I want to make clear is that if the person's sitting in my office, and generally with my MO is I call you guys.
Correct.
The members don't even necessarily know to call you. They call me and say I'm in trouble, and they've heard and with you or without you on our own through grid disciplines and stuff.
Right.
I've saved many members. I'm doing this. You asked me before. 34 years as president of this local, so
It's not your first rodeo,
no,
David.
no. I've been around the block, but there's always something new. There's
Right.
always something new.
Right.
And if a discipline, now in public sector, known as their preliminary notice of discipline, is the first document that's issued on a major discipline.
Right.
That means, with us, a suspension of 6 days or more or termination. If that's been issued, that precludes those protections, yes?
It does preclude those protections, but as a union, you're going to be looking for signs and symptoms on the job from your members. You're going to be looking not just at the first step of discipline. What's their absenteeism like? What is their lateness like? How's their effectiveness on the job? Your shop stewards are going to have a sense of their coworkers who are beginning to struggle, and it can be visualized even before that first level of discipline.
Actually, I will as well, because the way we work, the different locals work things differently.
Right.
But I have an executive board that consists of 35 people.
Yes.
We have 10 officers, but when I first came in 34 years ago, we deposed, my hair was down to here, and I really didn't care about anything because I'd been a musician. I just wanted a gig with health benefits. But these people said, let's get rid of this guy because he's really bad. They started a recall. We got rid of him. And so this is 1980. So then I ran for full office, and the people that wanted me to help get rid of him, then they tried to get rid of me. And they lost. This is what I used to look like. I'll show it to Jerry.
I love it. A great picture. You do look like a rock band.
Well, yeah, that was
I'm thinking
Aerosmith
Smith with that.
And no, it was more of a funky Newark 9-piece horn band. But anyway, and then other groups. I was at the Duprees and a lot of other people. But anyway, so I know what's going on because the shop stewards, if someone is disciplined, even on the minor ones in the office, there's 3 levels in the office. Counseling, oral counseling, they're all written documents. They are to fax it to me along with the workers' recounting of their version, and then I write a grievance on their behalf.
Correct.
One is to see if we can get the thing done away with, obviated, or mitigated. The other one is, even if I know I can't, I have a record of having fought it, so if they were to get the higher disciplinaries like majors,
right.
Because what the county counsel, lawyer for the county, will do when she prosecutes the case, she will go back to the very beginning and pull out all the old stuff. And if you hadn't grieved it, it's assumed that they were acceding that it was true. So I know all of the disciplines that take place as long as the steward sent them to me.
And you're doing all the right things in that regard. All the documentation helps. And calling your employee assistance professional help. It's another layer of job protection that you utilize. And you talk about the shop stewards and the labyrinth of a union. It's our goal to equip your shop stewards with the information of not just how to address the issue immediately. We have a mobile application, a mobile app. Everyone has one now, right? And it instructs presidents, shop stewards, members how to get assistance if they're in spiraling discipline. It talks about your Weingarten rights, how to invoke your Weingarten rights.
Let me stop you there. Yeah. Weingarten, for the edification of, I've discussed this before, but I don't know who might or might not have been watching. Weingarten basically is like Miranda on the street.
Correct.
It's for employees, though, and the employee, if they're called into a meeting with a titular superior and they know it's about discipline, or they reasonably believe it's going to be, and once they get there, they realize they're allowed to say, unless that employer says, and I always say, have them say it in front of a witness, like a shop steward,
exactly.
So not just to you.
Right.
But unless they say this will not lead to discipline, you're allowed to say, I want a shop steward or an officer to represent me, and I respectfully decline to discuss it. Just like if you're arrested, you shouldn't speak to an officer or to anybody else unless you have an attorney present.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You do have to go to the meeting. You just shouldn't speak until you have a member of your union there, a representative.
No, you do not go to the meeting.
Perfect. Okay. We often instruct individuals not to go to meetings that they believe is going to be disciplined, particularly if they're impaired. And oftentimes, and we've done it in cases with your union members as well, we get them out of harm's way before the discipline's even announced.
Well, that was my point, is that we do want to get them, and you do get them out of harm's way before the discipline's issued.
Right.
And therefore, they're somewhat sacrosanct from having any adverse action. That applies to the legal system as well, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
So if there's a pending charge against them, or if they're arrested for something, there's no litigation that's going to proceed because
Right.
they're going to be in some type of treatment. And
Correct.
whether it's local or it could be, Florida, you have places in Florida, yes?
Right. Well, we do utilize Florida locations, and I'll tell you that the legislature in Florida is well ahead of the times from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York. They flex benefits. So oftentimes the length of care, unfortunately, is decided by managed care, right? And there's a lot of debate all over New Jersey about managed care and their ability to deny claims of folks who are running down a dangerous path. So they're not going to deny a claim if you've had a heart attack, but if you have a dependency that's leading to the need for inpatient care, their reputation now is to contain costs and to contain the level of care. So what Florida does is flexes benefits. If your insurance package says you have 12 days in detox and recovery, and then you may have 100 days in outpatient, Florida takes those 100 days and puts them into an additional 60 days. Very, very effective. The longer lengths of stay obviously have higher efficacy for folks in recovery.
For Florida, to hear that Florida's progressive about anything is amazing.
Amazing, because everyone's 90 and above. But their legislatures...
Well, that's on one coast. The other coast, they're all carrying weapons, but that's another story.
Well, that's another story, and another legislative initiative.
The good old panhandle.
Correct, and that's also impacting labor unions across the country, but that's another show, David.
That's a right to work state, isn't it?
It is a right to work state.
Which was a bad thing, by the way. They don't mean right to work. It means that you can't collect mandatory dues from non-members is what it means.
That's right.
So people cannot be in the union, not pay any dues, and you still have to give them all the representation and lawyers and whatever else.
Correct.
And services such as yours with no dues coming in.
Right.
Which is not the case in New Jersey.
Correct. So oftentimes when individuals from labor unions in New Jersey say, why does my member need to go down to Florida? It's because of the length of stay and our ability to use the correct documentation from medical doctors who are treating those members and giving them what is the desire, a letter that says I'm fit for duty with no restrictions.
Which is what they get from a psychiatrist
Correct.
when they're released.
When they've gone through the appropriate length of program. And how's that appropriate length of program determined? By the severity of your condition and your willingness to work through the program.
Great. Okay, and then they come back, and then I use that in order to, again, try to obviate or mitigate whatever administrative charges were existing, and then they, on their own, with their own attorney, can go and use that.
Correct.
With the court of law to show the good faith that they tried to turn their lives around.
Yes, exactly, and that's why time is so important, David, and you know that. When the immediacy of the problem happens, you want your member to call us quickly.
Yes.
Because if we can get them out under care more quickly, it illustrates to not just the courts, but management, they understood their problem and they're willing to get the level of care necessary. Right. And while they're getting that care, we work with the union to build a medical legal defense that says the condition that I was in could have been impacting, the behavioral health condition I was in, could have been impacting my behavior on the job. And that's a pretty credible argument coming from a medical doctor.
Right, and that doctor will say he or she has been treated, and therefore that condition has been adequately dealt with to the extent that they should get back on the job,
Exactly.
or it should have a positive effect upon any kind of legal action that's outstanding.
Right, and we do follow up, not just with the union, but with the member to say, did you get back into the workforce? How are you doing? How can we support you with additional levels of care in an outpatient sense so that your dependency or your behavioral health issue has long-term care?
It's a maintenance program.
It's a maintenance program. These things don't happen overnight. The condition doesn't happen overnight, and recovery doesn't happen overnight.
A lot of these things can be brought about by stress and anxiety. So,
unbelievable.
So we talk about,
I love that segue. So what we talk about in stress and anxiety is how it compounds already existing behavioral health problems. 1 in 4 of your friends and my friends, and I can practically pick them out, struggle with a behavioral health issue. I'm the youngest of 9, so you can see my family's going to have an impact with that as well. We look to get folks care when they're calling and saying, my stress level is a 10. What does that mean? That translates into sleeplessness, it translates into being ineffective on the job. It can translate into impact on your health.
And on your family interactions.
And on your family, folks
Friends.
start isolating, don't
Right.
they? So they start isolating professionally, personally, marriages start to change, the way you interact with your children begins to change. And that's why when people say, oh, I'm so stressed, you know what? Take a minute, do a stress exam. And I don't mean go get a stress test. Go through signs and symptoms. Are you losing sleep? Are you taking unnecessary risks? And that's what we find oftentimes in the workplace. People who, may show up and begin performing their job, and then they veer off and start with bad behavior.
Well, I have also seen a major indicator to be basically avoidance of one's responsibilities, whether they be personal or business.
Correct. Yeah.
People tend not to want to get involved in or stay involved in things they have been very much involved in before.
Right.
They kind of they insulate and go like into a turtle shell.
Correct. So David, we do trainings on stress and anxiety. I'll come out to a general membership meeting or a shop stewards meeting and equip your members and your leadership in how to give folks the right tools to deal with stress and anxiety. And that could mean 5 minutes at your desk or your workplace doing neck rolls. It could mean deep breathing exercises, guided meditation. There's also sorts of what I would consider fairly new techniques to continue to offset the stress and anxiety, and recognizing that you have it.
Which is often a problem.
It's often a problem.
People don't really look inward. They can't necessarily look. They know something's wrong, but they don't always know exactly what it is.
Right, and so we pile things on ourselves. I don't know what type you are, but folks who can't say no to more work, who can't say no to additional responsibilities, who are people pleasers, they tend to have very high stress levels and very intelligent people.
It's funny you say that. I am all those things, but I don't think I have stress levels. In fact, I have a compulsive personality that feeds upon those things. I need those things I'm like a shark. If I stop swimming, I die.
I thrive in chaos, but I like to sort chaos out. So you have to know your personality.
I love chaos.
Yeah, I do.
You should see my basement.
Right. Well, they say here comes the crazy redhead. She loves chaos. Well, you're just sorting it out and making sense of chaos.
Now, you're also involved very much, your organization, with the issue of bullying. Our issue in terms of bullying, a perfect example, unfortunately, is somebody who should be antithetical to that, who's supposedly has appointed many people to these various committees about bullying,
right?
Both in the school systems, particularly in the school systems, but other places as well. And that's our governor, whose last interaction with the public, a member of the public, was in Belmar, where he said, "Shut up, sit down."
Correct.
So, what's the import of bullying? Specifically within, is it only within the workplace, or are you looking at holistically?
David, bullying has come in off of the playground, right? And we're looking at statistics that say 3/4 of the American workforce have reported some bullying. So what does that mean? It could be emotional bullying, it could be physical bullying, it could be verbal bullying, right? And so we've seen New Jersey governor hit almost every box on those. So 30 million people across the United States are being bullied. So what do? It's changing the workplace. It's creating hostile work environments. It's harming. It's people who are being intimidated. It's people being offended. And it's not just an obvious, overt measure. This happens over long terms, over people's whole career. And I've dealt with you on members who want to be reassigned, go into different work locations. And across New Jersey, we see that in every work location, there's an element of hostility and bullying.
Have you worked outside of Jersey?
Absolutely. We work with the National Institute on Bullying.
Right.
And it doesn't surprise you that it comes out of Rutgers University, right?
So, no, not at all. But I just thought maybe is there a little bit behind that Jersey swagger crap that Christie talks about that might engender more of that behavior within New Jersey or other, because Jersey is the most populous state.
Well, it is, exactly.
Size. That doesn't help either.
Correct. And Pew Charitable Trust just this September did a survey of the top 3 most stressful jobs in New Jersey. One, you can imagine, first responders, right? Second, air traffic controllers. There's a lot going on up there.
That might be concerned. Yeah.
That might be a concern. Third, New Jersey public employees. Okay, so if you're looking at the stress, again, the anxiety, and the hostile work environment that's going on, it's going on all across the country. But New Jersey is seeing a lot of the boxes checked, not just with their public employees, but with their private entities as well.
Well, but again, not to fixate upon the future presidential running candidate,
Right.
apparently, but we've become the whipping boys, public employees,
Right.
both at the state, county, and local. We're county, but at the state and local, meaning county and municipality, municipal, with this governor and with our pensions, and he gave a State of his Union yesterday when he didn't give any specifics. But it is very stressful, and particularly I want to note how, and people who've watched our show know this, how stressful it is for people who deal in social services.
Absolutely.
We're welfare workers, but we also have subsets that are all integrated or related tangentially, such as a lot of our employees, our members rather, not our employees, they're
Right.
their employees.
Right.
They have domestic violence clients they have to deal with all
Absolutely.
the time. I've worked with DIFAS employees for the locals, and some of them were involved, for example, in that horrible case with the father threw the baby off the bridge in the seat, and they, instead of disciplining the top level, they go
Right.
after the lower level
Right.
employees. So that, and combined with, I won't get too particular, but right now we have a unfortunately perfect storm in all the county welfare agencies, because the state is insisting that we do this process that it's called case banking. It takes away all of the responsibility from knowing who a worker is to just a general potluck kind of thing, so clients are not getting, and they're
Right.
lined up for hours outside
Right.
the building in the cold, and they wait for hours, their cases get lost and all kinds of stuff. And we're the first ones, talking about stress,
Yeah.
we're the first ones that the clients encounter, and
First line of defense.
we're the ones they take out upon.
That's right.
And then what's interesting is, I call it cannibalism, our own members start to fight amongst themselves because of the stress of having too many cases and too
Right.
few people to do the job.
That's right. And so it's not just an issue with management, but management sets the standard.
Right.
So if there aren't policies in place, if there aren't zero tolerance bullying policies in place, and I got to tell you, management often has them, but who reads them? Your members. Who doesn't read them? Management.
Right.
So here you have situations where you're right. It's turning what is a solidarity, union members against union members, and that's sometimes what management wants when they're looking to eliminate a position.
Divide
right?
and conquer.
Divide and conquer. Right. We see it all the time. So what's happening in New Jersey? Your Senator Linda Greenstein, she's amazing. She's, as I told you, wrote Chapter 69. She's in it with labor again this time. She's preparing legislation, which many unions are speaking into, on the right to work in a fair environment and a safe environment. Now, we talked a little bit about what bullying is. What bullying isn't is someone saying, hey, you're not on time. Okay, you be on time, right? We've all had jobs before. You're not completing your assignments. Complete your assignments. You're hired for a position. Bullying really is excessive monitoring. It can be taking work away from people who've been on a good project, but it can also be just the idea that you're marginalized across the board professionally. It can be a large, obvious intent. It can be very small. Sometimes people are moving things on your desk, screwing around with your personal items.
That's worse than, well, you say that, we have, I mean, they're allowed to, because they're not our desk, they belong to the county.
Right.
But we have people we have certain managers, a couple in particular, one in particular, who has a penchant for, when the workday's done, he'll go in and go through people's desks. Now, it's not
right.
that he doesn't have a right to do that, it's
Right.
just that
It's not illegal.
it should be, if he wants to know what's going on and know what's there, if not, he really should put it to the person's supervisor,
Right.
and not have himself doing it in the middle, because it does look as though it's a harassing nature, and it does become very problematic, and the stress levels just in society in general,
Right.
because of the economy, which is,
All of
even though
it.
it's improving greatly I feel under this president,
Right.
it's really not getting down to the
Right.
people such as we, because it's mostly the rich people that are benefiting by it with the market. Although it helps the pension, but doesn't help the pension when the state doesn't pay into the pension.
Right, that's right. And David, what we find is among the most difficult issues to control as it relates to bullying is gossip. It's the use of social networking to criticize individuals. We're seeing so many individuals' characters being assassinated through social network on the job. It's ridiculous to me.
Well, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Why don't you give me a summation of what we've spoken about, what you'd like to see happen with us, with anybody else, make a pitch to the public, whatever you
Right.
like.
David, I want to thank you for the opportunity
You're
to
quite
speak to
welcome. It's our
unions,
pleasure.
labor unions all over New Jersey and elsewhere. And I want to thank you for the work you do for your members, CWA 1081. It's among the most effective leadership we see across New Jersey.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What?
Yes, repeat it, say it twice, and write it down. And to that end, we know that unions all over New Jersey are not utilizing their employee assistance programs, and they're confidential. Ours is 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week. We have someone on staff. We have master's level counselors on staff 24/7 to help your members to protect jobs. Why are we no cost? Because we want to benefit the unions. We want the unions to understand that there's help out there. Labor unions are up against it every single day. We stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We want to speak to members. We want to have the opportunity to come out to shop stewards meetings. We'd like your members to have information that's delivered electronically. We'd like your members to download our mobile app to be able to say, I'm in a confidential moment, I'm in a difficult moment, I want to find a level of care. So among the most important things about healthcare assistance with member support is that we are confidential, we only work with labor unions, we're 24/7, and we protect jobs.
Sounds good to me. It sounded good to me ever since we started working with you guys, because it's been beneficial to our members affected, people they affect, and the union itself.
Right. So
Well,
call us. Can I give our phone number?
Sure.
1-888-828-7826.
Yes, and it'll be on the screen. So Jerry will put it up there.
Jerry's the
Thank
best.
you very much for
My
joining
pleasure.
us, and thank you for watching Labor's View. I'm David Weiner. We hope to see you in future shows.
I have a voice. My union speaks for me. I can be sure that there'll be equality. CWA makes the truth so plain to see that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, and we all agree. We stand together, keeping each other safe from harm. We stand together, hand in hand and arm in arm. And if we must fight, then we'll fight together. Our union makes us strong.